Hey, I'm speaking to Chapin Cutler of Boston Light and Sound, one of the renowned nationwide gurus of projection and one of the best guys who really knows everything about high-end projection.
You're too kind.
Okay. And I've been hearing about you for years, talked to you a couple of times. And my basic question is, I just saw the Cronenberg up at the Chuck Jones. It was one of the most radiant projections I've ever seen of anything ever. It was almost, it skirted the line, it was almost video clarity, which you don't want, but it was right on the edge. Is there anything special about what's going on there? What am I looking at?
First of all, I have to look and tell you whether it was video or film, because I don't know.
Okay.
Because I don't usually pay attention to titles.
Because it could have been a Barco digital projection.
It could
right.
very well be.
Right.
But the bottom line is that no matter whether it's digital or whether it's high definition video or film,
Right.
our aim is always to make it look the best it possibly can look, and that is always our that's always our aim. So
you've got this sheet in which everything is delineated.
This is basically the grid
Right.
of that everybody else gets,
Yeah.
except it's laid out as to which is HD cam, which is DCP.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And all the white ones are either TBAs or they're film.
Right.
So which one is the Cronenberger one?
It's called A Dangerous Method, and it showed at the Chuck Jones.
32.
Yeah.
So number 32 was actually, oops, that's the interview. Let me see. Number 32 was a DCP. So
Okay.
that was played on a Barco digital cinema.
Okay.
projector.
Well, that would be.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So yes, it was Barco digital cinema projector, and we take special aims to make sure that we use the correct size bulb, that the screens are illuminated.
How many foot Lamberts was I looking at?
We set to industry standard of 14
Okay.
everywhere. The standards that we use here are all based upon industry standards. We set every piece of content, or I'm sorry, every piece
Right.
of equipment, whether it's film, whether it's digital, whether it's just plain high definition video, to the standards the industry has set for exhibition, and we maintain those standards.
Now,
We don't change them.
I've been hearing that at the Academy Theater in Los Angeles on Wilshire and Lapeer, that they even crank it up 1 or 2 foot Lamberts beyond the Academy just to make it extra good. Is that something that happens?
I'm sorry, but I think a standard is a standard.
Okay.
And the standard means that all the prints are made to that particular standard.
Right.
And if you change the standard for any reason, then basically you're fooling with making different what was intended by the filmmaker when he made it and the laboratory when they produced it. So for example, for 35 millimeter film, the standard for illumination is 16 foot Lamberts.
Right.
+2 -4. So the standard says that anything from 12 to 18 is okay. So if you go into a theater that has a silver screen and they're running 60 foot Lamberts, that doesn't mean it's 4 times better.
Right.
What it means is it's not being played to standard, and therefore the blacks aren't black and everything is blown out and,
Right.
And way too brilliant.
Now, when an average person hears about high light levels, they might think what that's going to do is going to kind of wash out or overlight something. But what
tends to.
it does?
It tends to.
I thought the idea is to bring out all the values that were intended by the. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, it doesn't bring out the values. What it does is when you shoot a piece of content or a piece of film,
Yeah.
and then it goes through the post-production facility and the release print is made. The release print is made to be shown at a specific standard light level.
Okay.
At that standard light level, you should be able to see all the details in the shadow, and you should be able to see all the highlights without it blowing out what's around it.
Okay.
As soon as you start taking the light levels above what that standard is, black is no longer black. It becomes something else, usually something that's kind of got a bluish background.
Right. Yeah.
The highlights become, or I should say, the deep shadows look artificial against some kind of bluish background,
Right.
and the whites start to bloom out against its surrounding, almost like
Right.
looking through a dirty window.
Now, of all the theaters that are showing films at the Telluride Film Festival, I think there's what, 6
We have
or 7. One of the
we
two.
have 7.
Yeah. How many are straight projection? How many are digital? Or are they all dual capable of both?
Well, 3 of our theaters are set up for both 35 millimeter and to run DCP, digital projection,
Right.
as well as high definition video.
Okay.
3 of our theaters is set up to run 35 millimeter and high definition video only. And then the outdoor is temporarily set up to run DCPs when we need it. But it normally is strictly a 35 millimeter changeover.
I've seen 2 films at the outdoor, by the way, which is called the Abalgance Theater.
Yes.
I saw the George Harrison documentary, and I also saw Michael Clayton's superb
Michael
sound.
Clayton was 35 millimeter,
Okay.
and the George Harrison movie was a DCP.
Okay.
And we're probably one of the few film festivals besides TCM,
Right.
which runs all of our films as changeover reel-to-reel theaters instead of making things up on platters and running them that way. Everything that we do, because we often have...
What's wrong with
archival
platters?
prints.
Horizontal platters, you have everything linked together. What's the problem with
A
that?
horizontal platter is a labor-saving device,
Right.
but it
So the
either-
ushers can
So
run
the
that.
ushers and candy girls are people who can barely pop popcorn.
Right.
But here we get a lot of prints, which are archival prints, one-off prints, lab prints, or premiere prints, and people don't want to have the heads and tails cut off
Right.
of them.
Yeah.
We couldn't run those pictures here if we
Sure.
didn't stay with our changeover reel-to-reel operation.
Well, that's very
Yes.
classic and beautiful of you guys.
TCM Film Festival does the same thing.
Okay. How many other festivals hire you out to be their top? Do you go to Sundance? Who else hires you to?
I am the technical director for the Sundance Film Festival.
Okay.
I'm the technical director, one of the technical directors for the TCM Film Festival, for the Traverse City Film Festival, obviously here. I also do the Doha Tribeca Film Festival, which is coming up very shortly. Those are the big ones. I also do the Hamptons and have some involvement in other smaller festivals around, but those are the big ones. I also do CinemaCon, which is the National Association of Theater Owners Conventions.
Where does that happen?
That happens in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And that's where I basically run into and rub shoulders with people who are developing new formats and new means of exhibition.
I want to tell you that I didn't expect great things out of seeing Taxi Driver during the TCM festival at the Chinese. I was amazed how good that looked.
That's right. That we had at the Chinese festival, Chinese theater, we put in and probably exhibited the largest number of 4K digital restorations ever done, or 4K content ever done anywhere. And we did 5 out of 11 prints were 4K restorations, and the other 6 were 2K.
Now, this is not, I understand you're not working for the New York Film Festival, are you?
I do not work for the New York Film Festival.
But they are showing an interesting Ben-Hur print coming up.
Yes.
And what it was scanned at 8K, but will be shown on a Barco at 4K.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to the clarity in that one.
That's really become the standard of for doing restorations of 70 millimeter prints, is to do an 8K an 8K restoration,
right.
But then exhibit it 4K, because nobody is set up to play back or look at 8K.
Is anybody in the world able to see an 8K projection anywhere?
Not that I know of.
But someday it will.
You can do it if you tile projectors together, so that you take 4 2K projectors and put them, that actually is a 4K.
Okay.
And you could do the same thing with 4K projectors. But even as it is right now, 4K has not been adopted unilaterally within the industry, although the specs exist for it.
Right.
But James Cameron and his expanded frame rate to 48 frames a second,
which he wants to do for his next film or something?
well, he wants to do it, and Peter Jackson is doing it, we're told, on The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And so, having seen the demonstrations of it, that's pretty astounding. And since 3D these days is all still 2K, this would actually help with the headaches and help with 3D to begin with. Whereas doing a 4K, doing a conversion to 4K would not help any 3D at all.
In my mind, it's one of the great tragedies of conventional American exhibition that they didn't go to 30 frame per second Tadao system, or at least 30 frames, because the fluidity and just that was really significant from 24.
It's astounding, the difference between 24 and 30.
Right.
And of course, a lot of television shows in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were shot at 30 frames.
Right.
But the problem was that when 30 frames was trying to be touted, particularly when they were trying to shrink the size of the frame, the exhibitors didn't want to go to that because it was going to make it easier to transfer to video to go to 30 frames. Instead, video has gone to 24 24 frames, and so here we are.